Welcome, Dusan. I'm so happy that you're here joining us today for Conversations with Daniel.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me. My pleasure to be here today.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about who you are and what do you do?
So you know who I am, but for those who are watching us, I'm a pastor at the First Lutheran Church. I'm coming actually to my 8th year in this congregation. And before I was a pastor in Slovakia and then moved to the Czech Republic and being pastor in Prague for almost 10 years.
Oh, awesome. That's great. So, icebreaker question. What is your favorite book? Besides the Bible.
Besides the Bible, my favorite book is Bible. I read it, I try to read it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, and then it's a commentary to the Bible, probably.
Yeah.
I like when I have to prepare for my sermon, so I love reading ideas of people and what really it means.
Do you have a favorite commentary?
There are many of them, but I usually look at actually MacArthur commentary is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
Cool. I recently discovered David Guzik, and he goes through the Bible, and it's really good.
Is this your favorite commentary?
I think so, actually. Okay. I think so. It's easier for me to read. Sometimes some things are a little too intelligent, I guess, for me. Yeah. But David Guzik, very intelligent, but also simple. Yeah. So I like it.
You know, now it came to my mind that Warren Wiersbe is a good commentary even for lay people.
Yeah.
That's what we use in our church when we go through books. I always encourage people to look at that commentary as they read the Bible or listen to the sermon.
Okay, cool. Speaking of church, can you tell us the vision, the mission statement that you have for the church and for the community that you're serving in?
Absolutely. So, you know, our congregation went through a change. You know, we are changing the culture from the church that was really closed and served just inside of the church, but now we try to be more open. We try to serve community, and just recently we came up with a new mission and vision statement. And our mission statement is leading people to a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. I think it's very, very important for us to grow in Jesus Christ and in faith. If we want people to be properly equipped for a mission, right, it's the only way how we can help them.
And what's that mission?
The mission is reaching out for others, to invite friends basically, or start talking about faith, right, in places where they just come and they can start this discussion, being equipped to really start talking about it.
Right. So the mission for the church and for the community is to grow in that relationship with Jesus.
Exactly. And we have also a vision statement, which is "You are welcome here." It's very simple, but it talks about open arms and welcoming people as they come to see us, or vice versa when we receive some other people who come into our congregation.
Thank you. When it comes to funeral services,
yes, does
the First Lutheran Church in Kingsville here have any particular traditions or practices that you would see on in your funeral services?
There are not particular traditions. What I like about our congregation is that really you can experience that love and care for each other when someone goes through a difficult life situation, as death absolutely is, right? So we usually have a worship or funeral service in the church.
Okay.
We encourage our members really to have funeral service in this place, and then after that we prepare some refreshment. This is a part of that care.
Right. And one thing I noticed from being here a little bit, and just so the audience is aware, we're actually at the front of the church right now. So the casket would probably go just right in front of us here, right? Mm-hmm. This is kind of trivia. I think I know the answer. But when the casket is here for the funeral service, does it go lengthwise or does it go this way?
I never thought about it, but it always goes lengthwise.
It does. In the Catholic Church, it goes this way. But in most Protestant churches, it goes parallel with the altar. Where Catholic, it would be going this way.
Absolutely.
That's
very interesting. One thing that I would like to say, really encourage people, I don't know what happened with the funerals, but people prefer, not to even have showings or visitations these days. They basically just come for a funeral, and that's it. So it's very important, I think, for people that the casket is here, casket is open, and people come and say goodbye to the deceased.
Right. I totally agree. I believe that's a very important part of the healing process through grief, is to be able to see the person who passed away and say your goodbye. I honestly feel like that's a really important part, and that's an important part of what I do. Yes. Even to educate people on that, because I've seen a widow go through a time of grieving, and she didn't do anything. And I mean, it is different for everybody, but I've seen this a few times where she'll come, there was no service, no visiting, just direct cremation, and she came to receive her husband's cremated remains. So we give her the urn, and she just starts bawling and said, "What did I do? I didn't have that chance. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't have the community come out." And that's one thing that I think is really important.
Thank you
for bringing that up.
I'm glad, because what we need to talk to people about it, right? I think even the new phenomenon, I understand there is COVID-19, but many people, they just say, we are going to take that person and bury it. There would be only 15 minutes or 10 minutes funeral at the graveyard, and that's over. But there are also many people, in our lives that influences us. If we are a part of the church, all those people need to come and
you have
make
friends.
a proper closing, right?
Yeah, you even have friends that need to come and see you and say goodbye. And I've been to a couple services personally where I've known the person and I wanted to come and say goodbye, but it was chosen for closed casket for whatever reason. But it does feel like you're missing something. It feels like if you haven't seen the person who's passed away, if you haven't seen them dead, sorry for the bluntness, but if you haven't seen them dead, then sometimes in your mind it doesn't register properly.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree.
So one other thing, just real quickly, I noticed that in this church, after a funeral, there'll often be a couple of flower pieces that are left over. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it's a great tradition that we have here when there is a funeral, usually here in church. So I encourage people, because they would just take those flowers and put them in the cemetery, which is fine, but it's much nicer when we leave those flowers here, put them in the altar, and on Sunday we come here, the altar is full of flowers. And I think it's a great way to kind of commemorate that person as well. Usually we have the following Sunday prayers for the family.
And that actually would remind everybody coming to church that somebody has passed, and then they can spend that time just sharing their love and compassion with family. Now, can you tell me of a personal experience that you've had with death that has affected your perspective in life?
Usually what happens is when we are children and someone dies, that's the first moment when I faced this kind of, I was a little bit scared what happened, because the first death in our family that I really remember was a 12-year-old boy who was on the train, and they were just playing on the train, and train started moving, and took these two boys far from their home, and so they tried to go back home, and so they climbed up on the wagon, and there was the power that basically burned them. So he died, and he was actually connected to our family. So
how old were you at that time?
I was probably like 6 years old.
6, wow.
And that was actually my grandfather's brother's son that happened. And then couple of years later, his daughter actually was hit by the train and died.
Oh,
so
man.
that was actually the first time when myself and Grandma went to see the body.
Right.
And there was nobody around, and I was so terrified because my grandma came there and we saw the young girl there, and
Right.
her face was really, cut. And,
wow.
So it was very brutal,
Right.
and that will be in my mind forever.
Right. Now, you were about 6 years old at that time?
Yes.
How did you feel that affected you? Because I have a lot of parents that are afraid to bring their children to a funeral to see the body. I oftentimes encourage it because children they accept things for the way they are. And we'll talk about that another time, about how you have to just say things the way they are to children because they accept it and they're very accepting. But it was traumatic for you.
The first moment, yes, but then as you grow up, so then you start to thinking about it, and it goes in your mind. And I have to say that some people really still have a problem to approach like that body, right?
Right, they do. Yeah.
And I do funerals on a regular basis, so for me now it's kind of normal thing. So
Right.
I think because I saw those bodies before,
Mm-hmm.
it gets you in that situation when you just take it as a part and a reality of your life.
Right. So that's interesting. So when you experience that death when you're a child and you see the body, it can actually have a positive impact to realize that death is a part of life.
Exactly.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep.
So is there, do you have any throwbacks to death? And what I mean by that is, do you hear, when you hear a certain song or have a smell or you see something, does it bring you back to a time that you had an experience with death or dying?
Not really.
Yeah.
I take it as a part of normal life.
Okay.
And I don't really have anything connected to death, or that someone would start singing a song and the funeral comes to my mind. What is very interesting sometimes, and I don't know if it's normal, maybe it's not normal. Sometimes I have a, let's say, dream.
Right.
And I come to my wife and I said, I'm pretty sure that I will get a funeral soon. And usually within 1-2 days, there is a funeral in church. So
Wow.
I'm kind of mentally connected to my church, or
Spiritually
the bride of the Christ, right? That it happens pretty often.
Interesting. This is kind of connecting the last question with this question is, do you still remember, you said you'll never forget her
Mm-hmm.
face. Was there any, because I know our other senses are really connected as well. Was there a certain smell? Was it a morgue that you went to?
Oh, absolutely.
And because oftentimes the morgue has a certain smell that you never forget.
It does.
Yeah.
And you can close your eyes, and if they bring you there, you are in morgue, right?
Right.
So that's always that kind of smell. Like when you come to the hospital, you are
That's
in
right.
the hospital.
Yeah.
Right?
The
Or when you-
dentist sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or church.
Or church. Well, thank you. Now's your chance to ask me, Daniel, the funeral director, anything.
So I was thinking about this question for a long time, and
Okay.
I know that funerals are not only about tears in eyes and people crying, but they are tears in eyes, people laughing, especially funeral directors. Do you have some story that is not very sad, but it's rather funny, that you'd like to share with us?
So many funny stories. Let's see. So there's this one I remember. I was at a beautiful Catholic church. I think it was Catholic, may have been United, in Toronto doing a funeral service. Mm-hmm. And the lady who came up to do the eulogy, it was about a 40-minute eulogy. Mm-hmm. And the stories that she told had the whole church roaring in laughter. I'm trying to remember some of them. She was talking about a tornado that almost took her loved one away at one time, but the way she said it was just hilarious. And some eulogies can be really funny. And actually, that's something that I would recommend if someone is preparing for eulogy. Tell an enduring story, something that can make people laugh, and that can be part of the eulogy story. Now I'm trying to think of another funny incidents.
Or you can say something that brought tears in your eyes
Tears.
during the funeral.
Uh,
Because you are a professional, and we know that funeral directors sometimes don't
so
cry.
there was something touching that happened. Yeah, it is. Everyone seems to want to know about how much I cry, and I don't cry that often at all. There was one of my first removals, and what a removal is when we go to the place of death and we transfer the loved one into our care. In one of my first removals, I was in Toronto, and I went to this house. It was actually an apartment building, and I'll never forget. It was an East Indian family. Actually, they may have been Guyanese. And so we went into the house, and it was a father that had passed away. And he had a couple of sons, adult sons, and a couple of adult daughters. And they were by his bed singing beautiful worship. And he loved God with all his heart. And I really connected to that family right away. And in their singing, and then I said, which I think is actually an important thing that we can offer, is I said, would you like to be involved with us transferring your father into our care? And they said, absolutely. And but they said, just wait, we're going to sing one more song. And then they sang another worship song, and the daughters were rubbing his feet, because they used to always rub his feet. It was like a final foot massage. They were giving him a foot rub, and the sons were stroking his head, crying to say goodbye as they were singing a worship song.
Beautiful.
And what a touching scene to be able to usher their father for their final time out of the house. And yeah, that brought a tear to my eye because of how beautiful it was. And then I involved them in the transfer, and I said, okay, now we're just going to roll him this way. If you can tuck the sheet underneath him, because we oftentimes use a sheet wrap around the deceased to carry them to the stretcher, and then we'll put them on the stretcher. So the sons were involved, and then the sons helped pick up their father and place him onto the stretcher. And then if you're part of that, what to expect might be, they're like seat belts. One goes around the knees and you tighten that, and one goes kind of around the chest, because we want to make sure they're secure for the transfer. And then oftentimes there's a zipper that encloses a bag over the person's body, but we don't even have to close it all the way before transferring. Like sometimes people want to see their father's face as he goes, and that's fine. And so we do that, and they assisted. But that brought a tear to my eye for sure. Just the love and the care and compassion that they were showing their dad in that final moment.
That's beautiful, because that you can see that love really that they showed their father. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And in conclusion, can you tell us if there's anything that you want to tell the community, what you have going on right now in the community, what maybe some future plans might be? I know you're involved in the high school sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Our church is very involved in community, and I want to really encourage you in this time of COVID and difficulties that we just encourage each other and treat each other with kind words. It's difficult for all of us, and as we go to high school, as Daniel, you said, we are very excited to serve meals that we were serving. We need to find new ways how to do that, but I hope we'll be able to do that and just show that love of God to other people, because that's, I think, what really matters in community, that we are nice. And here is the thing, our lives are short, right? So it is about our legacy. Yeah. And I think this is one of those things that we have to remember, that we, when we support, when we give, when we share, when we open our houses and our arms, that's what really matters, and what people will remember about us.
Cool. Well, thank you so very much for taking this time and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel, for inviting.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Appreciate it.